She thought she knew every corner of her husband's life, until one ordinary morning she saw him where he wasn't supposed to be, laughing with another woman. But when she followed him and called his name, the man turned around. Same face, same eyes, same voice, yet he said, "I'm not who you think I am." And just like that, her world began to unravel. If you are new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking the video. Now let's move to this wonderful story. Mila Reinhardt always thought she knew everything about her husband, Kieran. They had been together for 10 years, built a quiet life with their 2 children, and shared the kind of love that felt calm and safe. Every Sunday morning he made pancakes while their twins, Ivy and Elliot, colored at the kitchen table. Mila worked at a publishing firm while Kieran, an engineer, usually worked from home. He was thoughtful, organized, and rarely did anything out of the ordinary. So when Mila missed her usual train that Wednesday morning and decided to take a shortcut through Maple Street, she wasn't expecting to see anyone she knew, especially not her husband. The morning had started like any other. Their daughter Ivy had a mild fever, and Kieran offered to stay home to care for her. Mila kissed her children goodbye and hurried out the door with her bag swinging over her shoulder. The sidewalk was damp from last night's rain, and the air was filled with the smell of fresh bread from the bakery near the station. But as she turned the corner onto Maple Street, her steps slowed. Just across the street, a man in an orange jacket walked quickly into a small coffee shop. At first, she barely noticed, but something about his walk made her stop. The slight limp on the left foot, the way he adjusted his sleeves, the familiar curve of his shoulders. It was all too much like Kieran. Her heart skipped. She told herself it was probably someone who looked like him. After all, Kieran didn't own an orange jacket, did he? And those shoes, scuffed and old, were not like the polished ones he usually wore. Still, her breath caught in her throat as she crossed the street. She stood outside the coffee shop window and peeked through the glass. There he was, seated at a small table near the back. The man, who looked exactly like her husband, was talking to a woman. The woman had bright blonde hair, wore a light blue blazer, and leaned in closely as she laughed. Her hand touched the man's arm gently. Mila's chest tightened. Her thoughts raced. Ivy was at home, unwell. Kieran was supposed to be with her. So who was this man? And more importantly, what was he doing? Without thinking, Mila stepped inside the coffee shop, her hands cold despite the warmth of the room. She didn't want to cause a scene. Instead, she slid behind a tall potted plant near the counter, just out of view. The man laughed softly at something the woman said. Mila watched closely, the way he ran his hand through his hair. It was exactly like Kieran. But there was something off. His smile seemed less familiar, and when he turned slightly, she saw a scar above his eyebrow. It was similar to the one Kieran got years ago during a biking accident, but this one looked lighter, almost faded. The man stood up suddenly and said something to the woman before walking toward the exit. Mila panicked. Her legs moved on their own as she slipped out the side door of the shop and followed him from a distance. He walked quickly down the street and turned into a narrow alley beside a bookstore. Mila followed, her heartbeat loud in her ears. "Kieran?" she called out, her voice trembling. The man stopped and turned. She froze. It was his face. The same eyes, same cheekbones, same soft jawline. But something in his gaze made her step back. He looked at her with confusion, not recognition. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. "You look pale." Mila blinked. "Kieran, what are you doing here? Why aren't you with Ivy?" The man's expression turned softer, almost sorry. "I think you have me mixed up with someone else." Mila stepped closer, trying to see clearly. "What are you talking about?" He gave a small, sad smile. "My name's Ellis, not Kieran." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. The scar, it was there, but fainter. The eyes, same green, but distant. The voice, so similar but missing something. "No," she whispered, stepping back. Just then, the blonde woman from the cafe appeared around the corner. She approached quietly and placed a hand on Ellis's shoulder. "Everything all right?" she asked, glancing at Mila. Mila looked between the two of them, lost. Ellis nodded. I think it's time we talk. Mila's knees felt weak. Talk about what? Let's sit somewhere quiet, he said. I'll explain everything. And though every part of her wanted to run, Mila followed. She didn't know yet that her life, everything she thought she understood, was about to change forever. Mila followed the man who looked like her husband into a quiet alley behind the bookstore. Her hands were shaking and her breath came in short gasps. She still wasn't sure what was happening or who this man really was. All she knew was that he wasn't Kieran, but he looked exactly like him. The man who called himself Ellis turned around and gestured toward a small bench near the back door of the shop. The blonde woman stayed close beside him, watching Mila with a calm but serious look. Let's sit, Ellis said gently. This is going to sound strange. Mila stayed standing, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. Strange? You look exactly like my husband. How is that even possible? The woman spoke first. My name is Naomi. I'm a private investigator. I've been helping Ellis for a few weeks now. Mila looked at her, then back at Ellis. Why? Who are you, really? Ellis sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. I'm not here to cause any trouble, I promise. I didn't even plan to speak to you. But then you saw me. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He held it out, but Mila didn't move. This is a letter, he said. It was written by my birth mother. She passed away last month. In it, she told me the truth about my past. Mila stared at him. What truth? Ellis opened the letter and read aloud. I had twin boys, but only one was registered at the hospital. The other was given away. It was arranged by a man who knew people who wanted a child but couldn't have one. It was done in secret. I was too scared to stop it. He paused, then folded the letter again. She said the other boy, the one she kept, was named Ellis. That's me. The one who was taken was named something else. We believe that boy is your husband. Mila's heart thudded. She sat down slowly on the bench. You're saying you and Kieran are twins? Ellis nodded. Yes. We were separated at birth. He was raised by another family, and I was put into foster care. Naomi added, the adoption was never legal. No records, no trail. It took a lot to find Kieran. Your husband had no idea. Mila looked down at her hands. Her fingers were cold. Her mind was racing. He always said he was an only child, she whispered. He told me he had no siblings, no family, just his parents who passed away years ago. He probably believed that, Ellis said. My guess is the people who raised him didn't know the full story. Or maybe one of them did, and never told him. Mila shook her head slowly. This is insane. Ellis leaned forward. I didn't come here to break anything, I swear. I wanted to see him. To know if it was real. If he was real. Mila stared at him. He looked so much like Kieran. Same smile. Same dimple on the right cheek. Even the same way he tapped his foot when he was nervous. But his voice was filled with something Kieran's never had. Maybe pain. Maybe loss. How did you find us? She asked quietly. Naomi, Ellis said. She found a few small clues. A school name mentioned in my mother's letter. Then we followed job records, addresses. We didn't know for sure until we saw Kieran's photo online. Mila closed her eyes. You could have just walked up to him. Ellis looked down. I couldn't. I didn't want to scare him, or ruin his life. He has a family, a home. I had nothing to offer but a truth that might hurt. Mila felt a wave of sadness roll through her. You said you didn't plan to talk to me, she said. But you followed me. Ellis nodded. When I saw you in the cafe, I panicked. I thought I'd ruined everything. I only followed you to explain. Mila sat quietly for a moment. Kieran's home, watching over our daughter. She's sick today. And here I was, thinking he lied to me, thinking he was cheating. Naomi's voice softened. I understand. I would have thought the same. Mila looked up at Ellis again. So what now? Ellis hesitated. That's up to you. I'm not going to force anything. I just want a chance to know the brother I never met, to see what kind of life he had. Mila stood slowly. Her thoughts were a storm. But one thing was clear. This man was telling the truth. It was in his eyes, in his voice, in the pain he tried to hide. I don't know how Kieran will take this, she said, but he deserves to know. Ellis nodded. That's all I hoped for. Mila turned toward the street, then paused. Meet me again. Tomorrow. Same place. I'll bring answers. Ellis smiled, his eyes full of hope. I'll be here. And as Mila walked away, the wind brushing her hair, she knew her life would never be the same again. The next morning, Mila sat quietly at the kitchen table, watching her husband pour coffee into his favorite mug. Sunlight streamed through the window, and the smell of toast filled the room. It felt like any other morning. Ivy was still resting upstairs, and their son Elliot was building a tower of blocks on the carpet. But something heavy sat on Mila's chest. She had barely slept. Her thoughts kept circling back to Ellis, to the man who looked like Kieran, talked like him, moved like him, but wasn't him. Kieran sat down across from her and gave a tired smile. You okay? You're quiet this morning. Mila nodded, then stopped herself. No, she wasn't okay. And it was time to tell him why. I need to talk to you, she said softly. Kieran raised an eyebrow. Is something wrong with Ivy? No, she's okay. It's not about her. Mila's fingers tightened around her cup. It's about yesterday. About something I saw. Kieran leaned in, concerned. What is it? She took a deep breath. I was late for my train. I took a shortcut through Maple Street. And I saw someone who looked exactly like you. Kieran blinked. What do you mean? I thought it was you. I followed him into a coffee shop. He was with a woman. But then I saw his face. Up close, it wasn't you, not exactly. His name is Ellis, and he says he's your twin. Kieran froze. For a moment, the room was completely silent except for the soft click of Elliot's blocks. My what? Kieran asked quietly. Your twin? Mila repeated. He says he was adopted. Your birth mother gave one of you away. He found a letter after she died. It explained everything. Kieran shook his head slowly. No, that can't be right. I was an only child. My parents told me so. I've never had any brothers or sisters. Mila slid a photo across the table. It was a picture of Ellis, standing outside the bookstore. His eyes, his smile, they mirrored Kieran's so perfectly it was hard to deny. Kieran stared at the image for a long time. This is real, Mila said softly. He didn't come to cause trouble. He didn't even plan to talk to me. But when I saw him, he couldn't lie. Kieran ran a hand through his hair. How is this even possible? Mila explained everything. How Ellis had grown up in foster care, how the adoption was done in secret, how a private investigator helped him find Kieran, and how the letter revealed the truth. Kieran listened in silence, his face pale. He's not asking for anything, Mila added. He just wanted to know if his brother was real. Kieran stood up and walked to the window. His hands were in his pockets. His shoulders looked tense. You know, he said finally, when I was little, I used to pretend I had a brother, someone who understood me, someone who was just there. My parents were older. We didn't have a lot of family. It was always just me. He turned around. And now you're telling me I've had a brother this whole time? Mila nodded. Kieran let out a shaky laugh. How do you even react to something like this? Do you cry, get angry, hug the guy? I don't know. You don't have to decide today, Mila said gently. But he wants to meet you. Only if you're ready. Kieran looked down at the photo again. When? Today. In the park by the lake. He'll be there at noon. Kieran didn't answer right away. He stared out the window, lost in thought. Do you want me to come with you? Mila asked. He shook his head. No, not this time. I think I need to do this on my own. Mila walked over and placed a hand on his shoulder. Whatever happens, we'll handle it together. Kieran gave a small nod. Thank you for telling me. That afternoon, Kieran left the house, his heart heavy and his mind spinning. He walked slowly to the park, his feet moving without direction. Every step felt strange, like he was walking into a dream. He reached the lake just before noon. There, standing under a tree, was Ellis. They faced each other for a moment, both unsure of what to say. Then Kieran took a step forward. You look like someone I should have known my whole life, he said quietly. Ellis gave a nervous smile. Yeah, I've been wondering what this moment would feel like. They sat on a nearby bench. The lake shimmered behind them. People walked by, unaware of the quiet storm between the two men. Ellis told him everything again. From the foster homes, to the letter, to the search that brought him here. He didn't ask for anything. He just wanted the truth. Kieran listened, his expression unreadable. You should have had my life, he said at last. You should have had parents who cared, a warm bed, a real home. Ellis looked away. I've thought about that too, but wishing won't change what happened. We're here now. That's what matters. Kieran nodded slowly. It's a lot to take in, but I'm glad you came. And for the first time in hours, he smiled. The truth was still sinking in, but it no longer felt heavy. It felt like a door, opening, one he never knew was locked. The sun was setting when Kieran walked through the front door. Mila looked up from the kitchen where she was slicing vegetables for dinner. Her heart skipped when she saw his face. He looked tired, but there was something else too, a strange kind of peace in his eyes. She wiped her hands and walked over. How did it go? Kieran didn't speak right away. Then he nodded slowly. It was strange, but good. I met him. We talked for hours. Mila guided him to the table and poured him a glass of water. And? Kieran took a sip. He's a good man, Mila. He's been through so much, but he's still kind and strong. He reminds me of, well, me, in a different life. Mila smiled, softly. I knew you'd feel that. He looked at her and reached across the table. Thank you for not hiding this from me. She squeezed his hand. I couldn't. You deserved the truth. Kieran took a deep breath. I invited him to dinner tonight. I want you to see for yourself. I want the kids to meet him, if only just for a little while. Mila hesitated, then nodded. Okay, let's do it. Just before 7, the doorbell rang. Mila smoothed her dress and walked to the door, opening it slowly. There stood Ellis, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers and wearing a nervous smile. Hi, he said. Mila stepped aside. Come in. Ellis's eyes scanned the living room. Photos lined the walls. Family vacations, birthday parties, baby pictures. A pile of toys rested in the corner. The smell of warm lasagna filled the air. Smells amazing, he said. Kieran appeared behind her and clapped Ellis on the back. Hope you're hungry. They sat around the table. The kids were curious but friendly. Mila introduced Ellis simply, as a very special guest. The children asked him questions about his favorite ice cream and if he liked dogs. He answered with a laugh, his voice soft but sincere. Dinner was filled with gentle conversation. There were pauses, of course, long moments when no one knew what to say. But then someone would ask a question and the silence would break. Ellis told them about the time he accidentally adopted a turtle thinking it was a rock. The kids burst into laughter. Kieran shared how he once got stuck in a tree trying to impress Mila. Even Mila relaxed, watching the pieces slowly fit together. After dessert, the kids ran to the living room. Mila offered coffee. Ellis nodded. Thank you, he said quietly. For letting me be here. Kieran leaned back in his chair. You're not just here. You're part of this now. Ellis looked down at his cup. It's strange. I've always dreamed of something like this. A house, a table full of people, warmth. And now I'm sitting here and it feels like I walked into someone else's dream. Maybe, Mila said gently. It's a dream you both shared. Ellis smiled, but his eyes held something deeper, grief maybe, or wonder. Later, as he got ready to leave, he paused at the door. This night meant more than you know, he said. Kieran stepped forward and hugged him. It wasn't awkward. It was real, strong, full of things that didn't need to be said. You never should have been out there alone, Kieran whispered. Ellis held back tears, and now I'm not. After he left, Mila and Kieran stood together in the quiet house. The children were asleep, the dishes cleaned, the lights dimmed. How are you feeling? She asked. Kieran didn't answer right away. Then he said, lighter. Days. Passed. Then weeks. Kieran and Ellis began meeting regularly. They ran together in the mornings, sometimes grabbed lunch, and talked more deeply each time. Mila noticed the change in Kieran. He laughed more. He seemed more whole. Eventually, Kieran brought Ellis to meet his adoptive parents, Margaret and Henry. The meeting was emotional. There were tears, disbelief, and hard questions. But in the end, there was also acceptance. Ellis had not come to take anything away. He only wanted to belong. Over time, the two men became brothers in every sense. They shared old stories, compared childhoods, and filled in the missing years. They celebrated birthdays together, holidays, and even small victories like fixing the broken sink or winning at board games. But the most meaningful moment came one spring evening. The whole family gathered in the backyard for a barbecue. The kids were chasing fireflies. Mila laughed with Margaret near the table. Soft music played from a speaker. Kieran and Ellis stood side by side, plates in hand, watching it all. You ever think about what life would have been like if we'd grown up together? Ellis asked. Kieran nodded. All the time. Ellis looked at him. Do you ever feel angry? Kieran took a moment. I used to, but not now, because this right here might be how it was always meant to be. Ellis smiled. And in that moment, with the laughter of children, the glow of string lights, and the feeling of something once lost, now found, the weight they both carried began to fade. They had missed so many years, but they still had time, and that was enough.